Good day, everybody. This is David Fry of JT&S doing the June 2021 PowerPoint Lockout Tagout for transmission and distribution. As you'll notice as we go through this program, there's of lots of articles, lots of paragraphs, lots of time and effort spent on Lockout Tagout. It is an invaluable part of our industry to keep everything safe. Lockout tagout is utilized in our industry as well as far as the private industry, industrial maintenance. Lockout tagouts. You do not have to be an electrician or a lineman to use lockout tagout. Every craft I know of, especially in a factory setting, uses some version of lockout tagout, and it's basically all for the same reasons, same purposes, all after the same objective as being sure that everyone's in the clear. And I'm hoping in our industry that we make it a bigger part of our everyday routine. What is lockout tagout? It's a means of blocking flow of energy from a power source. It provides a means of warning. It prevents unexpected re-energizing. It's a primary component of energy control. We're just talking about a transfer of information to let people know that something's different. It can be for the block and the stop usage of electricity. It can be something that's tagged for an abnormality, something that is not reflected on your map system. Anything from normal opens to switches to being a breaker bypass. All these items needs to have a tag on them. All these items needs to transfer information of what's going on, and if nothing else, just gets us thinking about what we need to do, what could possibly be different, what's abnormal, and who do we need to talk to find out exactly what's going on. The whole sole purpose of lockout tagout. An excellent way, another step to keeping us safe. And hopefully it's a routine thing, like I hope our open test and ground sequence is. Lockout tagout should be involved in that process as well. Lockout tagout. Lockout is the placement of a lockout device on an energy oscillating device in accordance with an established procedure. Like I said earlier, OSHA and APPA as well spends a lot of time in their manuals talking about lockout tagout, and also each individual company should have their own procedure and guidelines for lockout tagout that, as a minimum, reflect OSHA and APPA standards. Tagout is the placement of a special tag on equipment or energy oscillating device to warn employees do not operate, do not change what it is right now. The person that gets that tag, which we're going to talk about quite a bit during the course of this program, the person that got the tag is solely responsible for that tag. There is ways to transfer it, and we will cover that during this program. OSHA reference, like I said, 1910, 247, 269, 333. There's lots of articles on lockout tagout. 1910 147 covers servicing and maintenance of machines and equipment. 1910 269 applies to lockout tagout procedures for control of energy sources and installation, electric power generation, even communication and metering, stuff we use every day. It's part of our work day every day is those items we just listed. 1910 269M applies to de-energizing of transmission and distribution lines. Applies to equipment for the purpose of protecting employees. Safety is what we're talking about. What makes our job more safety? What is another step we can do day in and day out that gives us another barrier from being injured? OSHA 1910-333 is safe work practices not involving transmission or distribution, circuits or usage past delivery point. We as an electric utility, municipal or cooperative, we have most time the weatherhead, meter base, whatever is as far as we go. If we go any further than that, I want you to just use a great care and be extremely careful of the actions we take past our delivery point. Most people have guidelines talking about that, so let's just be sure that we know exactly what we're getting into whenever if we ever decide to go past our delivery point. Like I said, company procedure will supersede anything right there as far as your responsibilities past, or even whether you would like to go past the delivery point and help. Sometimes that's something that you need to really be in tune with your company procedure. Each utility shall have its own policy to ensure proper hazardous energy control. Employees shall be trained to ensure that the purpose and function of energy control programs are understood. Do we know why we have Lockout Tag Out? Do we know the information we need to put on tags? Is everybody on the same page as far as the information when they fill out a tag? All these things that we all have to be in unison. We all have to do it the same. If everybody does everything the same way, it leaves less room for misinterpretation. So that's it must be pretty important. It must have come up in the past, or the APPA manual or OSHA would not have it in there. If an energy isolating device can be locked out, the lockout system shall be used, unless the use of a tag out can provide full employee protection. The introduction of SCADA, which is not new anymore for most of us. Introduction to SCADA, the tag, because of dispatchers operating breakers and A switches, hotline tags, de-energizing, even re-energizing after an outage is handled. And some companies have different procedures and policies as far as who is responsible for filling out the tag, where it's located, who actually has access to it, and so be sure we're all clear within your company on your procedure as far as Lockout Tagout. It's pretty simple. If you don't have SCADA or if you don't utilize SCADA, then we go to that particular piece of equipment always and put the tag on. If you have a different procedure, then I hope we still have to have some kind of tag, some kind of worker online, some kind of something that we're going to pass information to somebody coming by that we're there. Do not operate and do not change settings. Lockout tagout shall be performed only by authorized employees who are performing maintenance or servicing equipment. The sequence to apply lockout tagout is before authorized employee turns off equipment, they shall have knowledge of type and magnitude of energy to be controlled and methods to control it. Is the piece of equipment you're going to be operating, is it capable of doing what you want it to do without injury to others or equipment? Sometimes in our industry we have to go back a step further, a little further up the line to maybe de-energize or a particular thing down line, a particular device down line that may not be capable of breaking the flow of current flow. Equipment shall be turned off using procedures established for that equipment. Just echoing the previous slide. Is it load break? Is it a switch with what I would call an elephant ear on it, load break? Is it a load break elbow? Is your gang operated switch, is it load break? Gang operated switch with load break on is a lot different than a underslung switch that's used to the normal underslung switch that's used to bypass breakers. That's a perfect example of may have to go to the upstream device and make it safe to open or close those switches. Definitely open. All energy oscillating devices needed to control energy shall be physically locked and operated in such a manner as to isolate equipment from energy sources. You know, if you look real hard, you don't have to look real hard right here to see that we've got an open part. Open part of our open test and ground sequence. I'm not sure that's the last time we're going to talk about this. You know, we're going to lay out plans of reinforce the open test and ground sequence, and then hopefully work in the lockout tagout is a major part of that sequence. Lockout devices shall be affixed to each isolating device by authorized employee. Lockout devices shall hold equipment in the on or open in the off or open position. Each one of these devices should have their own tag. Each one of these devices should have their own number, and each one of these devices should only be released to be back normal by the person that requested the caution order number or requested the action and whose name's on the tag. That's the only person. And we'll go through some steps here later of what you have to do if someone other than the one that requested the caution order number, the hold order number, whatever, if anyone else other besides them operates or requests it to be removed. It's very important that we do not do that. Lockout and tagout shall be affixed to the same spot if equipment accepts the lock. When a tag cannot be affixed directly to isolating device, the tag will be as close as possible and in clear view. Most of our equipment, whether it's drop controls from regulators to capacitors to breakers, has a hasp that will accept a lock and therefore will accept a tag. You know, it's just a good way for people to recognize that there's something going on that's out of the ordinary right there, and we need to look at it if we're going to drive by that and could possibly do any work, or you know, we have to get your own tag. But just for information purposes, you should be able to look at that tag and reasonably have a good idea of what's going on. And even if nothing else, just gives you the name of a contact that you can find the location of, as well as the task at hand. After application of lockout procedure, all potentially hazardous stored or residual energy shall be relieved, disconnected, restrained, or otherwise rendered safe. Can you read put set of ground zone? Can you read? Can you see the 5 minutes or 3 minutes, whatever your company procedure is, on a set of capacitors for them to be safe to shun out and handle? So you know. Know your equipment, know what you're dealing with, and don't be afraid to ask questions. Before starting work on equipment that has been lockout and tagout, an authorized employee shall verify that isolation and de-energization has been accomplished. So we're checking for the presence of or lack of voltage, whichever way your terminology is on that. You know, before starting work, that has to be a open testing ground, guys. And we're going to talk about that. Hopefully that comes up throughout the program. Hopefully it's something that we're going to get used to, and it's going to be a culture of we feel slighted if we don't do that. So we'll check for the presence of voltage before we start to work on the equipment. Even though we've turned the breaker off, maybe we've seen lights go out, what have you. That's not good enough. We still have to check for the presence of voltage. If there is a possibility of reaccumulation of stored energy to a hazardous level, a verification of isolation shall be continued until work is finished. So it should be opened in a manner that cannot be closed back in. It should put a set of grounds up. We've tested voltage, and then we've tagged each possible place that could cause the line to become re-energized or piece of equipment. Specific procedures shall be utilized during shift or personnel changes to ensure orderly transfer of responsibility of lockout tagout. The person that requests the from dispatch or whatever your company procedures and policies are, the person that requests and signs that tag is the person responsible for that tag. May not be the most senior person, may not be the person with the most authority. Now, the person with the most authority can relieve that person of their responsibility of their tags, but it has to be in front of all people involved on the crew in front of dispatch or at least verbally over the radio. That person, whoever gets that tag, is responsible for that tag until it's either under certain procedures transferred to another person or they relieve that themselves. Dispatch should not, under most circumstances, ever relieve a tag, remove a tag or a hold because when someone other than the person that requested it calls in to release it. Hopefully dispatch is going to do some investigating and going to do and try to figure out what's going on. It's for it to work correctly, it's inevitable we have to follow these rules. The sequence to remove the lockout tag out, the work shall be inspected to ensure non-essential items have been removed and equipment is safe to energize. We're all in the clear. My crew's in the clear. If you're talking to dispatch, we're all down and in the clear. Is there anyone else on this line? If it's if you're going through SCADA, regardless if you're going through SCADA, even if you're standing at the breaker and you're manually going to re-energize, I suggest, just a suggestion, not knowing what your company procedures are, you should go through dispatch and ask them if anybody else is on this line other than your crew that's all been accounted for. If everyone does the correct procedure, gets their own tag, that when they go by a control point that another crew is tagged, if they get their own tag and go through the process according to OSHA and APPA manual, then dispatch is going to be aware of where everybody's at and what they're, and where they're at and what they're doing. So it's very important company-wide that for the lockout tagout thing to protect us, we are going to have to follow rules and procedures and be diligent about getting our own tags and the same person that got the tag relieving the tag. Work areas checked for all clear. After the lockout or tagout is removed and before equipment is energized, all employees shall be notified that all tags, locks have been removed, that the grounds has been removed, maybe the normal opens, or if it's a de-energized situation, that the normal opens are all closed back before we energize the. Normal open doesn't have to be at the breaker. Normal open can be anywhere between you and your work site, and as we all know, a open fuse barrel is not recognized as a visual opening. So a lot of different sequences could come through. You should have the breaker tagged if this is the case. You should have the open point tagged as well, and then you would release those in the opposite order as you got them. So it's fairly simple. Sometimes it's a little time consuming, and sometimes it's we think it's not necessary sometimes. But to me, system-wide outages, the scariest time is at the end of an outage when everybody congregates on that one line that most of us have, that we all save till last, and we've got more than one person, more than one crew, maybe working in more than one location. It is of the utmost importance that everyone gets tagged and everybody follows a procedure. Each lockout tagout shall be removed by the authorized employee that requested it. And as far as lockout tagout goes, it's like I said earlier, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the most senior guy. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the guy with the most authority. It's the guy that got the tag. He and he only is responsible for relieving that caution order, number, hold order, whatever you may have. If a person who requested tag is unavailable, the supervisor may assume responsibility for tag as well as informing the person who is originally responsible for the tag. If a more senior guy, a guy with more authority shows up and he wants to assume his responsibility of that tag, that's fine. He can have it. But specific transfer of a clearance holder, must take place. If the person's no longer on the job Maybe he got sick, maybe he went home, maybe for staffing purposes he had to go somewhere else. So, the procedure to give the tag up is, in front of the crew, and everybody should be aware of it, even dispatch. Tag requirements. Lockout tagout devices shall be singularly identified and can only be used for controlling energy. Hope for not we're putting a caution order tag on a busted chainsaw or what have you. We need to be serious about our lockout tagout and use it for only what its intended purpose is. Constructed to withstand the environment. Sometimes an abnormal situation can last a long time out in the field. Maybe we've got a couple of spans through the woods that's been down, or poles broke, or what have you, and we've got capabilities of loop feeds and back feeds and feed two different directions, and we don't have to fix that right off. But that tag needs to stay on that point until it's either the mapping reflects the change or it's put back in its normal state. The tag must stay there the whole time. They should be able to withstand wet and damp locations. Lockout tagout devices shall be the same within the utility. Color, shape, and size. Print and format shall be standardized. That's if we all use the same one, we all fill out the same way, we all put the same information. Sometimes it can be a little misleading of tagged for and tagged by. Sometimes we can overthink things, but what we need to do is have everybody within the utility to see it the same way, getting the practice of doing it the same way. Lockout tagout devices shall identify employee responsible for gaining the clearance. Tags shall inform do not start, open, do not close, do not energize, or do not operate. With or without dispatch, one employee shall be designated by employer in charge of each clearance. If you do not have access or do not have dispatch, you go by a controlling device that's open, or you need to open it, or you're working behind it and need a switch or a hotline tag or whatever, then whoever comes by that control point should never operate that without talking to the person that listed on the tag. It has to be, that's the whole design and purpose of the tag. The employee in charge performs the functions of dispatcher. So if he leaves, then he's responsible for getting somebody else in the crew or whoever's staying behind to give them authority over that caution order number or whatever. So it's it works both ways. If whoever's in charge of the caution or hold order, if they leave the job site, it shall be transferred in front of the crew as well as dispatch. If only one crew is inside of control point at all times, the employee in charge does not need to use dispatch to de-energize. The employee in charge can create a visible open point, and tags are not required. That's according to OSHA. If your company policy is different, then you should, you have to follow company policy. Just to say it one more time, OSHA manual and APPA manual is the bare minimum. This day and time with AMI meters and different types of meters we have out here that alert just as soon as they're de-energized, it's probably a good idea for you to go ahead and call in and dispatch anytime that we de-energize a transformer or anything. So it's, that might just save a little confusion. If two or more crews are working on the same control point, each crew shall have separate employee in charge, separate tags, and coordinate with each other. I think it's one of the most important slides in this whole program. Is we got to beat home the fact that whether if you're working in the same location, if you're working in different locations, definitely different locations. Each person, each crew, each employee in charge needs to get their own separate tag under the control point. There could be several tags under the same control point if if need be. Depends on how many people. Like I said earlier, that last line, that one that everybody says for last, usually the roughest, usually gets the less count, less members on, or less customers on. That's the one that's, we always congregate to last. We may not be in sight of each other, so definitely we need to get, each person needs to be responsible and get their own tag and put on that particular device. If disconnect means is accessible to individuals outside employer control, it shall be rendered inoperable while open for the purposes of protection. Definitely we need to close our control boxes back, our drop controls. Be sure that they're locked up and tight. Gates to substations, lock them behind us. Just we don't want leave any room for chance for somebody of the public that may not understand the seriousness of what actions they could cause could have harm on us out on the line. Here's an example of a caution order tag. Some people use caution order tags for A switches, hotline tags, something abnormal. Some people use different company policies. If a set of grounds is installed, which would be any outages seems to be, they would use hold orders. We'll talk about those in a second. But caution order numbers, lots of people use different a number of different ways. The particular date would be 001. Today's date and 001 would be the way we did it. Where I worked at midnight, we start fresh at 1 again. Some people run concurrent throughout the year, some concurrent through the month. It doesn't matter as long as everybody does it the same way. We have the date and time, the location, the apparatus tag, whether it's a breaker, whether it's a fuse, where it's just a lifted hotline clamp. May have cut a jumper on a corner pole or something. The switch number, if it has one in that situation, probably going to give an address. Tagged for, whether it's outage, maintenance, what have you. Tagged by is the person requesting the tag. Per order of would be the person in dispatch. Location and crew. And then, of course, at the bottom, you're going to have tag removed by and the date and time. And then the per order of needs to go back through dispatch. Dispatch needs to be in charge of this. And if everybody utilizes the Lockout Tagout procedure, it's just, like I said earlier, it's just an excellent buffer between us and maybe somebody getting injured. It's practically the same tag. It's just a red tag. These means different things to different locations. Whatever your company policy is, and whether you're using the red hold tow order tags or the yellow caution tags, whichever way you want to use them. It's company policy. Please refer to that and understand it and train our young guys on that. With the introduction of SCADA, sometimes the tagging process may be a little harder to use. This particular item has a little place to put the tag inside. Worker online. It's really visible at night. It's a good place, like I said, to put the tag. It's just another transfer of information to somebody coming behind us to know that there's somebody working on the line, somebody doing something. We need to contact those people. We need to definitely not make any changes to the device that is on the pole there or any situation until we talk to the people that's listed on the tag. Blockout Tagout is like I said earlier, it's got a lot of rules and regulations and tying into the APPA and OSHA manual, company procedure. It's an excellent way to keep us safe. Hope if anybody has any questions, contact JT&S, and hopefully we'll be able to answer any questions or procedures if you don't have one in place about the Lockout Tagout. Thank you, and be safe.